And now, ladies and gentlemen, we are privileged to have with us our distinguished keynote speaker, Shri Nandkumar Saravade, Strategic Advisor on Security, Ethics, Innovation and Compliance. With an exceptional career spanning law enforcement, financial technology, and cybersecurity, Shri Saravade has made significant contributions to India's cyber resilience. He has served as the Chief Executive Officer of Reserve Bank Information Technology Private Limited and the CEO of the Data Security Council of India. An officer of the 1987 batch of the Indian Police Service, he has also brought his expertise to leading organizations as a trusted advisor on fraud risk and security. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in warmly welcoming Shri Nandkumar Saravade. Sir, over to you, please.
Good morning, everyone. Till the setup gets going, let me start and use the time well. First of all, I would like to thank Mr. Goyal and the IBA team for having invited me for this very important occasion, the 5th CISO Summit, where all the banks are here. And it's a great opportunity for me to not only share my thoughts, but also to hear from you. And you are the people who are on the hot seat. If you are on your seat, normally I think you will be just running around and meet the community and renew my own 25-year journey now in this field of cybersecurity. I don't know whether this will get sorted out or we have to do something else. But there is a story I remember, which I always tell when things don't go right on the presentation side. So there is a gang of thieves which is roaming around the countryside, and then they see a acrobat who is doing very fantastic things with walking on a rope, climbing, and doing handstands and whatever. So they recruit him, saying that okay, this is a guy who we can take in our gang, and he can go in a house, open the door from inside, and then we can go in. So he says, okay, what is the pay like? So they give him a good offer. So they recruit him, and then he starts traveling with them. So they go to a place. In the day, they case it out, a nice big house. And then they say, okay, now we'll come in the night and go in. So they come in the night and then tell this guy, okay, now do your job. Just go in and open the door from inside. We'll all come in. So he says, I need a guy who beats the drum first to start my job. Without that, I cannot do anything. So this is the presentation. Sorry about being a little flippant in the beginning, but I think we can start now. So first of all, let me again congratulate the IBA team for having chosen a theme which is so perfect for today's times. It says empowering cyber resilience with the crux of the matter. Securing today. So today has to be secured first. And then you have to also shape the tomorrow. And how it is to be done through the 3 Ps, as we'll see. But let's start first with what is the landscape and what is bothering us today. Now, I hope the audio works, but if not, then just bear with me with the subtitles.
It is the rise of powerful frontier AI models that could change the speed and scale of cyber threats. The regulator has asked banks and other regulated entities to assess their preparedness against such models with specific reference to Anthropic's Mythos. Banks have been asked to complete a board-approved gap assessment and prepare an action plan by the end of June. So what has the RBI actually asked banks to do? They must establish a structured cybersecurity framework, they must run AI-led tests against potential threats, and they must identify existing vulnerabilities that could be exploited in the future. This comes just days after the RBI said it was fully prepared to handle cyber threats linked to models like Mythos. But why is the regulator focusing on this model? Because Mythos is not a regular AI tool. It belongs to a category known as frontier AI models. These are among the most advanced general-purpose AI systems in the world. What makes Mythos stand out is its reported ability to identify software vulnerabilities and cyber risks at high speed. It is considered especially capable of detecting zero-day vulnerabilities. These are security flaws that developers or companies may not yet know exist. And that's where the concern begins. If such flaws can be found faster, they can be potentially be exploited faster too. That could give cyber criminals a new advantage. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman described mythos as a new challenge earlier this year. That is why regulators want banks to prepare now rather than respond after an attack. But there's a catch. Access to mythos remains limited globally. Anthropic has only recently expanded access to more than 15 countries, including India. So why prepare for a model that only a few institutions can access? Because this is not really about one model. It is about a new generation of AI systems that are becoming increasingly capable. Experts say financial institutions can begin by testing their technology infrastructure using any capable frontier AI model. Many publicly available advanced AI models can already perform similar security-related tasks. Banks and financial institutions are also evaluating how these tools could be used across their own operations. Industry experts say companies will keep finding and fixing vulnerabilities. But the challenge now is speed. The pace of fixing must exceed the pace of the threat. EY India said it has already developed a framework to help banks assess AI-related cyber risks, close security gaps, and build long-term resilience. The government has also been closely monitoring these developments. In April, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman called a meeting with the country's top bank executives. She urged banks to secure their IT systems, protect customer data, and stay in close coordination with cybersecurity agencies. AI is emerging as a powerful tool for both cyber defense and cyber attacks. For India's financial sector, the challenge is no longer just adopting AI. It is about staying one step ahead of the risks that come with it. Follow Business Standard for more such stories.
So we saw how the right from the top most people in the government are worried about this, and rightly so. And of course, the burden finally will come and fall, has already fallen on you, this slightly older video. But what does mythos change? I think one thing it changes is the speed of attack, machine speed of attack. We always felt cyber risk is an adversarial risk. So there is an adversary who is mostly a human at the other end. But now that adversary is either not a human, is already a machine or machines, or a human which is assisted by machines. So the speed of adversary action has just gone up. They also have acquired additional capabilities, and they are able to not only take one vulnerability but chain it with another vulnerability and then carry out something which earlier would take weeks and months of dwell time. You all would recall the Target case where similar chaining of vulnerabilities happened. The adversary came in through a HVAC control system, and then they went to the higher value part of the network, and then they carried out the exploitation. And that took several weeks because they had that kind of patience, time, and there was nothing else available. Now, this is going to become faster, and I will show you some statistics later to really bring home the urgency of the matter. So new capabilities, speed of attack, also lowering the skill barrier, which has been happening for a long time now, but this again takes it to a new level. And continuous vulnerability waves. So the first wave itself produced, as we know, in Firefox itself alone, more than 200 vulnerabilities, which Firefox patched in the next release, etc. But this intensity and escalation of intensity is what we see as the new normal. And this is something which will keep teams busy. One after the other, these waves will come, and they will overwhelm the defenses. To be fair, I think the first round itself would have yielded so many vulnerabilities, and so much patching has already happened. Obviously, the Glasswing participants were the top vendors in the field, and they would have been doing their job and releasing patches, and the patches are getting applied as we go along. So the surface is started hardening already, but then the models also are becoming more capable. So till now, they are discovering what is already known, the known knowns and the known unknowns are being brought out. They have not yet come to a level where discovering vulnerabilities which were not known earlier to humans. But that may or may not be the case tomorrow. So we have to really look at the next level of escalation. Our risk models have become outdated. I mean, risk management in cybersecurity is always a very iffy thing because the lack of data to really attach weightage and impact to risks because of low reporting, because of different methodologies. But now that risk management has become even more qualitative and subjective. And obviously, as we have been saying for a while now, resilience has to take over prevention. You cannot prevent everything, so how you respond and recover is what is going to become important. And this is where architectural initiatives which were initiated many years ago in some banks, zero trust network architecture, which is a very long project as we all know. The readying of identity and access management for that kind of architecture, the kind of application configurations and application improvements which have to be done, the whole zero trust approach now, which was a theory or a paradigm earlier, has now to be made operational and made into something which is going to work and deliver every day. And obviously, AI has to come and help in this particular new scenario of how the new threat will be, new landscape will be dealt with. So there have been, of course, a lot of advice to the CISOs, which advice is very free now, right? You just put a query and every LLM comes up with a beautiful bulleted list of what needs to be done. Obviously, the work has to be done by people on the ground. But broadly, things are well known. I think adopt AI. AI vendors are going to say that adopt us and then we will protect you. Gabbar se sirf gabbar hi bacha sakta hai kind of thing. But that is a given because that is the only way the vulnerability discovery and vulnerability remediation is going to happen. Automation, remediation, and machines fighting machines. That is a given. So how you quickly you adopt AI in your own security operations, security surveillance, threat management, that's what you'll have to think about. But it also goes into vulnerability operations continuously, into getting the right staffing. Obviously, staffing will probably go more to the frontline IT infra people who have to do the patching, who have to do the testing, who have to do the crunch the cycle times to much smaller numbers than what are prevailing currently. Also keep the lights on because you can't afford to have downtimes in this whole patching mania and so on. So it is going to be more people, more budgets, more tools which are required. So I've been telling my colleagues in the boards that please allocate more budgets. I'm telling CISOs to become more ambitious in what they are planning to do and get the whole procurement thing out of the way because that itself takes a significant amount of time. So that's what you have to keep working on, expand your teams. Your risk reporting has to change. Whatever is getting reported has to become more contextual, more risk business oriented. And you have to also prevent burnouts. This is a very clear and very interesting recommendation. So much work happening, your team is going to feel the heat and some of them will burn out, some of them will want to jump ship because there are going to be better offers from elsewhere. And you have to keep your flock together and ensure that they are not really getting disheartened. The last but not the least, which is where I think the IBA initiative of setting up information exchange mechanisms, of building communities of CISOs, building communities of practice, of people not reinventing the wheel all over again comes into play. This is a very clear recommendation, and this is always a recommendation that cybersecurity is a subject which no individual organization has been able to tackle. It has to be tackled at the industry level, it has to be tackled at the national level, and we have some institutions already there, some institutions will come about. Whatever is missing has to be created and invented. I mean, 10 years ago, recently Rebit completed 10 years of its existence. 10 years ago, RBI set up an institution which I had the proud privilege of participating in. And it has been a great journey for that organization, even if I say it so myself. And these kind of initiatives with a lot of risk capital in that sense to be invested into creating capabilities has to be thought about. And obviously, this is not CISO job alone. This is job of the industry leaders and the boards and so on. But just to get the vulnerability urgency in place, there was a recent report from Qualys, which just talked about the growth in the known exploitable vulnerabilities as put out by CISA. And that number has been really staggeringly grown from 75. This is, of course, a sample database, what Qualys saw in their work with 20,000 organizations, 1 billion remediations of vulnerabilities, that is the universe. Out of that, they found that there is a growth of 6.5 times more vulnerability closures in 4 years' time. That's a staggering number. And that just goes to show how people have been busy and doing their job so well that these numbers are not reflected in the headcounts, but they are reflecting in the work actually having been done. But the breach window has also been now reducing, and they talk of the average window of exposure as the metric. We all are very happy to look at mean time to detect, mean time to remediate, kind of a number, but that number doesn't really take into account what is the life cycle of the threat, and that is much bigger than what the numbers which are being tracked. So they talk about average window of exposure, and that number, you'll see the actual remediations are way outside that window. And this is not going to help us, even though, to be fair, the number of threats which materialize out of the vulnerabilities is less than 1%. So out of 48,000 vulnerabilities discovered in 2025, sorry about the microscopic numbers, only 357 were weaponized. So the attackers are not weaponizing everything. There is a large denominator which is lying unused, so to say. And in this also, there is enough work to be done. But this is the last screenshot I took from another report, which shows how from vulnerable to exploitation, the window has dropped. And this is now stands at 20 hours with AI coming in. It used to be 2.3 years at one point of time in recent memory, that is 2018. So this is the speed and this is the intensity which you guys have to deal with, guys and girls. And I don't envy your job. So now the solutions. We saw the problems. Now what are the solutions? And I think the 3 P's brilliantly put together by the IBA team come into play. First, the people. And as I come from a uniform service, the Indian Police Service, and we had a 2-year-long training, and we're always told that it starts with leadership. If you have the right leaders, the famous quote says, Alexander the Great saying, I don't fear an army of lions led by sheep. I fear an army of sheep led by a lion. And leadership is what really counts, and CISOs are right there in the midst of this battle. And this is where I think you need to look at things. And I'm aware that not all of you are CISOs. Some of you are people who will be CISOs in 5 years, next year, and who should have the aspiration to become CISOs. When we set up Rabbit, we used to tell each and every member who was joining us, please consider yourself as an entrepreneur 5 years down the line. Look at this organization as something you will run yourself in 5 years and learn and do things with that kind of sense of ownership, that kind of planning, that kind of involvement in the work. So likewise, I think the security teams also need to look at what the ideal CISO should be doing. And in that, I think CISO as the strategist becomes a very important part, because without strategy, the defeat is inevitable. As Sun Tzu says, it's a noise before defeat if you don't have a strategy. So look at what strategy you need to build. Obviously, the first one is align with business. It is not a hypothetical exercise of deploying some technology solutions and achieving some KPIs. It is about running businesses in a cost-effective manner, in a reliable manner, in a collaborative manner, in an innovative manner. So alignment with business becomes number one. And then you can't have zero risk. There's no business without risk. In fact, the business of banking itself is taking risk on lending, choosing the right borrowers and lending to them and paying to the depositors. That is the whole business of banking. And the risk cannot be eliminated. Those who are eliminated risk are going out of business. So you have to define risk appetite. What is it that you are willing to accept? And the board and senior management are not really, they don't understand cyber risk, right? What is the impact of doing this or not doing this investment and not wasting money here? So you have to decide that you are the risk appetite definer on cyber risk for the organization. You have to invest like a portfolio manager. In personal investment, you are not putting all your money into stocks. I hope you are not putting money into stocks all. Putting some into debt, some into pension, some into maybe commodity, the new flavor. But diversified portfolio, and because everything has utility in the portfolio. So that portfolio definition, whether you are going to spend money on prevention or detection or response, that you have to figure out. That is the real crux of understanding where is the risk, where are the good solutions also. It is not that everywhere there will be solutions. Some solutions are costly but not so effective. Somewhere you can spend little money and get great results. Security awareness, so little investment and such great benefit. And those kind of decisions you have to take, become a portfolio manager. You have to enable business transformation. Every bank is looking at inducting AI, doing digitization, doing mobile, doing next level lending, which is having no track record. So there are new solutions which are going to come in. Fintech collaborations are going to come in. APIs are going to open up. Business banking, embedded banking, everything is going to come up. And this is what you have to enable as CISOs, because you can't be saying, okay, I will only do this much. You cannot do this much, because then the business will not go ahead. And how do you do this? You have to build a narrative. I mean, narrative has become a slightly dirty word now, but narrative is important in terms of you're trying to say what you're trying to do in an effective manner. I think that becomes very, very important. You have to build your communication skills, and you have to build an anti-fragile organization. Now, those of you who have read Taleb's book on anti-fragility, talks about how events actually strengthen organizations. And if you go to the gym, you know that the more you push, the more you lift, the more your muscles break, they become stronger the next day. So you have to use each crisis, each incident, each event as a learning for the organization and see how you can improve controls and understanding. You have to also be the educator. Obviously, with your knowledge, you have to tell people what they understand in their context. Context engineering is so important now, right? So unless the recipient's context is understood, the communication is ineffective. So you have to build partnerships. You have to be a credible voice. You have to say the right things. You have to have the independence and the integrity to say things which are bitter but true and useful in the long term. But don't come across as somebody who is an arrogant person. So the balance of communicating well with humility and with knowledge and with effectiveness, that becomes important. You have to, of course, build bridges, help out people, those who are trying to meet deadlines, those who are trying to meet regulatory requirements, put compensating controls, allow some things, stop some things, your judgment, but build influence because you are helping people out. And you have to also work with the ecosystem. Now, as I said, cybersecurity is a job which no single organization is able to do. You have to collaborate with regulatory authorities, with other banks. And security is something I always tell people is not a competitive area at all. You are not competing with other bank security people. You are strengthening everyone in the process, and collaborating helps that kind of strengthening for everyone. So you have to build ecosystem trust. And lastly, but not least, you have to develop your own team members to become future leaders. That's a very important point. You have to do mentoring. You have to be positive. You have to build aspirations. You have to build dreams in people that they will achieve big things. If you don't trust them and if you don't talk to them in the right manner, then they are not going to have that growth. The third and the more urgent part is being a crisis manager. This, of course, I'm not going to say too much. You have been practicing it, but it needs preparation. It needs practicing. It needs thinking on your feet, and that's what will really make you effective. So I think people aspect always comes first. I mean, this sequencing is just perfect. People are the most important things in the whole game. As there was recently a good article on comparing India and China, and how people strength, people skills, people openness, people innovation, people confidence, that really is what really matters. So you have to prioritize people, and then through people get things done. But then comes the platform. And security solutioning as a platform, as a concept, is something which we have to look at in terms of how architecture really is important. And we all started with many certifications start with teaching about products and how a product will work and how it will be configured and so on. But beyond that, there is thinking out what does the product do? How does it work? Are there any competing products? What can I do instead of this? Can I use something else? How can I do tinkering and roll my own solutions? That is the kind of approach which will make you away from products. I'm not running down product companies here. They are going to be they are helping and they are going to be very important. But the idea is not to get locked into products, but think of architecture. And obviously, identity access management becomes the entry point and the most important point. So multi-factor authentication, passwordless, continuous authentication, so many things are there available, and they have to be deployed well in a cost-effective manner to really make things effective. Zero Trust I have already mentioned about. This is a project which many good banks have started several years ago. Data centers, cloud estates, everywhere there are now capabilities available. Old equipment has been phased out. New equipment is capable of being configured for microsegmentation, monitoring, east-west, and everything. So this has to be deployed, and this has to be made effective, and this has to be made productive also. It can't be stopping business, but facilitating business and so on. Embed security by design. When new things are getting rolled out, get involved, do give inputs in the beginning and not when things have been tested and rolled out and coded and now done and dusted. You have to get involved in the beginning, take interest in with the developing teams, IT teams, innovation teams, and ensure that you have a seat at the table in the beginning itself, and ensure that, and this is for the organization, it's not for you as a leader, but for ensuring that the organization is benefiting from this shift left in your own work. Leveraging AI for defense is given, and how this is to be done well is something which you will have to discover and figure out. And obviously the focus has to be assets of the organization, which are mostly in the databases, immutability, and so on. And the last is the practice. So people, platform, and practice. And in practice, everything is good. Auditing is the test of design, but it's also test of operations. So design is good, but is it working well? You may have a beautiful on paper infrastructure and on ground infrastructure also, but is it really working as expected or not? So obviously even RBI has now started talking about assume breach. So assume breach is the default mechanism or the default paradigm that you have to look at, and then work with that starting point. Attackers are going to be there without your knowledge, and they are going to be discovered, and then you have to contain and recover quickly. Continuous validation of security solutions are available. Please use them well. Create separate teams. Give them independence in teams. Within teams also, I see red teams don't get much love from the rest of the team, but make them rotate people so that they don't develop entrenched viewpoints and entrenched interests, and continuously validate security. Build operational resilience. We have so many scenarios which now invoke resilience, and these are required to be worked on all the time. Ransomware was a big one, and preparing for ransomware itself, it takes several months of journey in terms of how you will do your backups, how you will test them, how you will deploy them, and so on, what kind of downtime you will have. And that BCP part is actually the test of how effective everything else is. Crisis management is going to come in at sooner or later. Luckily, I see when I nowadays start looking at bank sector incident, there are not too many, and it's a great thing to have. 2016, when the first big thing happened, Bangladesh Bank, banking industry all over the world got rattled. And after that, so much work has happened that we don't get rattled, we just get some tremors and then we move on. But this crisis management is something which is always there. You avoid wars by preparing for them all the time. And that's what is always required to be done. And you have to become a learning organization. I mean, I know people say, where is the time to learn? And that is something which you have to figure out. How to allocate, first is overcapacitize your team. Don't drive them to extinction by giving them too much work. Maintain work-life balance, have extra capacity, send people on trainings, do in-house knowledge gathering, because there is so much knowledge within the team itself, which is better than a lot of training opportunities outside. So just draw that out, help people express themselves, write internal blogs, do internal presentations from team members itself, and build that team spirit and become a learning organization. So this learning through execution, I think, is something which is the practice part, and we have to look at that as that. This is the last slide, and I just wanted to summarize what we talked about. So cybersecurity is the business imperative now, and everybody is looking at CISOs as the KMPs who really are so critical to the organization. And trust is a competitive advantage. I mean, we know so many people, I know so many people who say, okay, this bank's app works most of the time, so let me use that preferably. And that reliability. Why is UPI so prevalent? Because it works all the time. And instead of doing something more difficult as doing other kind of transfers and so on. So trust becomes a competitive advantage. But AI is going to continuously evolve, become more capable, and pose more challenges. So keep an eye on the AI. That's what will have to be done. Resilience comes from 3 Ps. And again, the brilliant framing of this particular theme. And the idea is not to do a technical job, but to a business job, to do a customer-oriented job of generating confidence and trust. So this I thought was something which might relate to the theme of the conference. Again, I see a lot of very vibrant agenda here, and you will have great opportunity to learn what's new happening with all the elevator pitch and the displays. And you will get a chance to talk to each other and find out who is doing what. And I'm sure IBA will take forward the community building as you go ahead. So thank you for your attention. Thanks, IBA, for inviting me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for an insightful and inspiring keynote address. So your perspectives have set a strong foundation for the day ahead. One thought that particularly stayed with me is that cybersecurity is an area which has to be handled not just at the organization level, but at the industry level. So can we have again a huge round of applause for Sarvadeji? Thank you. So now I request Shri Atul Kumar Goyalji to present a memento to our esteemed guest as a token of our appreciation.